President Biden said, I told Prime Minister Netanyahu that Israel demonstrated a remarkable capacity to defend against and defeat even unprecedented attacks, sending a clear message to its foes that they could not effectively threaten the security of Israel. Come on now. We know what that is. And that is, look, Iran is not stupid. They knew that most likely these missiles were not going to land. That Israel does have this defense Iron Dome that it has to have, by the way, to clearly survive. There were rockets pointed at the third most important Islamic place, the Dome of the Rock, right there. Of course, was the former home of what? The Jewish temple before it was destroyed. Then they built the Dome of the Rock on top of it, and Israel protects it. Why? Because Iran knew these weren't going to land.
It's not just what's happening to the Jews in Israel. And by the way, not just to the Jews in Israel, as I'm sure you know, there was only one casualty from this barrage of ballistic missiles, drones, rockets, and that was a young Arab Muslim girl who was injured in Israel. And so there, it's indiscriminate bombing, shelling, trying to destroy anyone on the ground, and they don't care how many Arabs or Muslims they sacrifice, so long as they can strike a blow against the Jews.
Yes, the response is amazing. It is a miracle. It's a miracle of God that the defense forces, that Iron Dome works the way it works. But we shouldn't be living this way. And if this happens, just like our last guest said, it'd be the same way of what happened in Gaza and Hamas, which is eventually thousands of people will die because we kept our guard down and Israel did not respond in the way it should have due to really pressure from the West.
One of the things that we should keep in mind here is that we should expect future retaliations on both sides, but it's important to keep in mind that Iran is a major supplier of terrorist groups such as Hamas and Hezbollah, which have threatened Israel. So on October the 6th, 2023, the Middle East was essentially at peace. Then we had October the 7th, and now I think it's open season, and I think we are in for a season of retaliation.
Amir Avivi, who is the founder and CEO of Israel's Defense and Security Forum. I wanted to have you on this broadcast today to give people a bit of understanding, because look, we went into the weekend anticipating that this attack was going to happen. And I think for people who are kind of unfamiliar with maybe the war games, if you will, that Israel could be prepared and it would happen. And this is just how the escalations start to happen. But from you on the ground, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, yeah, Israel anticipated this attack. We had the intel. We knew when it was coming. And Israel, we have been preparing for this scenario 30 years, since the early 90s when Iraq first time attacked with ballistic missiles Israel, and we had no response. We relied on basically on American capabilities, the Patriot at the time. Since then, Israel has advanced dramatically. We have a multi-layer system and capability to deal with drones, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles. And I think it has proven itself. And of course, the coordination with the US, Britain, Jordan was extraordinary. And we managed to really deal with 99% of this attack. And now we have to retaliate. There will be a response, and there will be a strong response to what basically Iran did. I think now there is an understanding that Iran is the main aggressor, is endangering not only Israel and the region, but also the whole globe with its aspiration to nuclear weapons. And it's something that requires a very, very strong response.
I agree with you. I think Israel has to respond. And I think it's pretty ridiculous that you have people like our president saying, take the win. And that's what he told Prime Minister Netanyahu, take the win. The Iron Dome worked. And we were able to stop this. Any other situation, if this was over our country, if this was over the United States of America, you could look up and see the missiles coming in and the defenses having to take place. That would not be the response. But it feels like it's only because it's Israel. And when you hear something like that, take the win, knowing that a response is really necessary. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you cannot win just on defense. You have to be proactive. We saw what happened when we were not proactive in Gaza. At the end of the day, if you are only on defense, at a certain stage, will be attacked, and it's usually in a surprise. We paid a heavy price for not being proactive. We are not going to do that again. We need to defend the people of Israel. We need to deal with this threat. And I think that it's time that the U.S. understands that Iran is endangering the whole globe and not be willing to use power. This reflects not only on the Middle East, but globally. This is stabilizing the whole globe. This might bring China to attack Taiwan. This emboldens the Russians in the Russian-Ukraine war and maybe beyond that.
Yep.
So in order to have really stability, it requires leadership, and it requires really being willing to use military power against this threat, against Iran.
The ECLJ's response currently to the UN. Cece, why don't you give us a brief understanding of not only why it's important we're there, what it is we're doing, and what this is. You can see it. I'm holding it right now.
Sure.
This letter.
And like I say almost every time when we talk about Israel and the United Nations, Israel is the most condemned member state out of all 193 member states. Even though they are basically the bastion of democracy in the Middle East, they get just constant condemnation. So we take our place at the UN under the ECLJ, the European Center for Law and Justice, and we consistently defend them at that international body. So today we are sending a letter to the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. We are sending him a letter basically saying that he must, under the UN Charter, he must condemn the actions of Iran as open and direct violations of the UN Charter. And then he must publicly confirm that it is illegal. What Iran has done is actual illegality, and that Israel's right to self-defense is legal response. And then the third thing, we want to urge the Security Council to take effective measures against Israel. And the Security Council is the effective arm of the United Nations, whose mandate is to peacefully resolve international disputes. So they can take action against Iran. And then the fourth thing is to take effective measures to rein in Iran's nuclear enrichment program. So we've asked for 4 direct, concrete things that the UN Secretary General should do to condemn Iran's actions and to commend Israel and their right to self-defense.